On everybody,
Let's
jacked
go. Let's go. As Marcus Smart said in the end of the game, let's effing go.
Playoff level jacked up after this game. This was incredible. I hate hyperbole before having a chance to think about it, but this had to be the game of the year.
Game of the year.
Just in terms of everything, right? Because you're looking at, both the excitement level. It was fun. It was back and forth. You've got Tatum dropping another 50, so he has a major national television primetime performance. But really, for everyone, it was kind of like, how do you stack up sort of game? And again, we're not going to make the excuses with, still no Simmons. We'll see. That's,
right.
Whatever. That's a wild card. We have no idea how that's going to look. So don't even worry about that. He's distant memory. But you had as loaded as they're going to get Nets team right now. Durant looks like he didn't miss a freaking second. Going blow for blow. At times it looked like, I don't know, man, good offense might beat good defense here. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it might have if Tatum didn't go out of his freaking mind. But, so many things to unpack and talk about in this one.
That's good offense, though.
Huh?
That's good offense. Tatum's
that's good. Good offense also beats good offense. And that's what it means is so many things we've talked about here, kind of coming to light where, yeah, the defense can win if Jason Tatum plays like an MVP caliber player. Yeah. And he did. And it was like, this felt like an arrival, like the announcement, the proclamation. I tweeted this a short while ago. I feel like Tatum bypassed the top 10 conversation and immediately jumped into the top 5 over the last couple of weeks. And then with today's game.
Yeah. Arrival's the word that I was going to use. So you stole it from me, but that's it. I mean, this is the biggest non-playoff game of Tatum's career. Probably the biggest non-playoff game in the last few seasons, just for the Celtics in general. This was a huge win because the spotlight was on them, both teams today. Durant coming back, Kyrie back in Boston. A lot of different storylines. The Celtics are finally playing a team that, are they full? No, because they don't have Simmons, but they're extremely offensively gifted Brooklyn Nets team regardless. And they came and they went blow for blow with them. So I mean, man, this is why you follow. This is why you're a basketball fan. Games like this, right? I mean, it's exactly what you want. Superstars going against superstars now in Jason Tatum. This was a game where he is certainly has to be included in the names of superstars across the league. So wildly entertaining. And this was a believer game. What I mean by that is if you didn't believe in the Celtics before today, I don't know how you can have the same opinion after today's game. There's got to be something saying, okay, see you, John. I guess I'm just going to go solo here.
No, I'm here, buddy.
Oh, okay. You're here. Okay.
Yeah, just gave you the spotlight. Just gave you the spotlight.
We haven't done spotlight for a minute, so I didn't know if I just lost you. This is a believer game. If you don't believe in this team after this game, then you're just a hater.
It's also a clever way to sneak Josue in.
It is. I can hear Josue giggling. Unbelievable.
Oh, you're leaving, John? Oh, okay. All right, cool.
All right, well, cool. Peace
I guess
out.
I'll just solo here.
There's too much good Celtics talk for me. I gotta go.
No, but
too much positive.
Josue Pavon, everybody. What an entrance.
It's too positive. It's too positive for John. He gave you the floor. Go ahead. Keep going, Jimmy. I'm with you. I'm listening.
No, I mean, Josue, you were there, so I'm anxious to hear your opinion. But from watching it, from our perspective, I mean, man, this was a game where you were up on your feet. I don't know how you couldn't be if you're watching it from home, just getting fired up for the way Tatum played. I mean, that last big sequence there with the Jaylen Brown 3, I had to tear the house down. And that was just a classic, good ball movement, making that extra pass, and like the dagger. It was just such a fitting way to end this game. Really, it's just this is the type of win that can really carry you somewhere. I'm not going to go full Bobby Manning on everybody, but this is the type
wait
of
for
game.
him.
Yeah, he's coming in guns blazing. I know.
I want to quickly. I want to get Josue's kind of.
He was busting at the seams, man.
I want to get Josue's in the building reasonable take before we get Bobby's in there too.
Yeah.
I do want to point out to everybody at home who forgets how this whole post-game show started. Jimmy and I were the positive ones, okay? And we had to convince Bobby that the Celtics were good. I just want everyone to remember that, okay?
Yeah, and he's taking that.
Back in the bubble, we had to convince Bobby the Celtics were good, and he was not a believer. He thought every opponent they played was better than them.
How does Bobby type with the green foam fingers on?
With the pom-poms.
Yeah, how does he even get the keys?
Yeah, but hold on a minute though. Remember before the new year though, he was talking about, come on guys, let's just face it. It's time to just get ready for the draft and rebuild and all that.
They defeated all of us, no Josue.
I was right there. I was banging the drum for sure.
But for Bobby to do the 180 the way he did, I was I was very surprised. I'm still surprised.
Yeah.
But no, after what we saw today, I mean, anybody, like you said, Jimmy, you can't look at the Celtics and not even consider them at least a dark horse to upset a couple of teams in the playoffs. Like, if you want to say that, okay, that's fine. But if you want to say the Celtics shouldn't be mentioned at all, then you're missing out on a whole lot. And I say that because 24 hours ago, I saw national heads talking about some of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Magic Johnson, matter of fact, talking about the best teams in the Eastern Conference. During the ABC, ESPN broadcast, did not mention the Celtics as even a dark horse to disrupt things. I hope his stance has changed after seeing this game, because not only is Jason Tatum put himself in the conversation of one of the best players in the NBA right now, but he went toe-to-toe with one of the greatest scorers in the NBA. He went toe-to-toe with Kyrie Irving in the mix as well in this atmosphere. And look, unlike what we've seen in the past, there was no a lot of hugging and dapping up before this one.
Yes.
There was
business trip.
One quick exchange, one of those, you're in the layup lines, and there was a coincidence that Durant's coming as you're coming, sort of eye contact, lock for 2 seconds, quick hug, see you later. And that was no daps, no words exchanged. And that was the mindset that Jason Tatum had coming into this one. Now, Jaylen Brown, I think, did a really good job of implementing himself when they needed him. Obviously the three-pointer, like you talked about, Jimmy, was huge. But also he was sort of the glue guy in the sense of getting the ball to work its way around. I thought he did a really good job of that. And he needed a taste of this matchup. I know some people may not have been crazy about seeing him in this game. We all know he's not 100%. But I think he needed a taste of this, right? In case these two teams do meet in the playoffs, I think, when you couple the fact that he wasn't even out there for that playoff series last season, I think he just needed this under his belt to move forward.
That's a good point.
I don't
to
disagree.
be part of a game like this. And also for the Celtics' case, John, they needed to see what this looks like. We would have, win or lose, we wouldn't have had a chance to see what it looks like for the defense to be full throttle with Jaylen Brown in the mix, even if he isn't 100%. They needed him. So I thought it was good.
It's a fair point. It's just a risk-reward situation because we've seen it with Jaylen now over the past couple of seasons, kind of not being right, returning from injury. He admitted last time he rushed himself back. Mm-hmm. They don't play again until Wednesday. This felt like a really easy skip to get him a full week and a half off and then come back and not worry, because his health in the playoffs is all that matters. Seeding almost doesn't even matter anymore. So yeah, it's a nice statement thing. It's good for the team, which is great. I'm going to bring in Bobby too here, but Josue, I wanted to, when it gets Bobby's take, Josue, the one thing you mentioned I wanted to get a word in on was the observation you made after the game. Quick dap and move on. We've talked about that a ton, and this felt during the game we were watching it, I was like, is this going to be like Lakers in the pandemic year, and you were out there for that game in LA, and we've referenced it a million times, where Tatum puts up a monster game. It's on national television. They come up short, but after the game, it feels like they won because Tatum scored a lot, and then they whatever. And
in LA,
Grandy, and Grandy was on a podcast, Celtics Beat podcast this week, and he talked about kind of Tatum's ascension. And one thing he mentioned was, he's got to get to the point where he's no longer satisfied with the praise and adulation coming from superstars like Kevin Durant. So much was made at the end of last season in the postseason when Durant went on that podcast and he kind of put Tatum up on a pedestal and said, the guy's here, he's awesome, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And we talked about that a ton, but what you want is, I don't want to be liked by you. I want to beat you. And we always put KD as almost like that unreachable benchmark of who you want to see Jason Tatum ultimately be, which is I don't care what you throw at me. I'm just going to score whenever I want to, from wherever I want to. And that's ultimately when he gets into that level in that conversation, then he becomes that, and he's got other elements to his game too. KD's doing it without anything else, without having to worry about any other aspects of his game, even though he's a decent defender, probably more than he gets credit for. But on scoring alone, KD's elevated himself into the top 5 all-time conversation. Tatum, you can't be KD, but if you can be a guy anywhere close to that level offensively, like, you've arrived. Like, today was He did that play he made late when he kind of split the defenders and he got to the rack. I have no idea how he did that. The decisiveness he had all game, how quickly he got downhill, how quickly he passed out of doubles. That last possession, the wherewithal to take that hockey assist, to give it to Marcus, or was it to Marcus or Jalen for that three with 0 time on the clock was incredible. Like that, these are things he was not doing earlier in the year when he was catching some heat. He was dribble, slow ISO, setting people up, letting the defense set and taking shots. Totally different guy right now.
Right. And he talked about a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago, the fact that everyone is looking at him and Brown to sort of lead the team and what are they going to do between the two of them. But then this past month or so, when we've seen this huge turnaround, Jason Tatum realized that we have to bring everyone with us. And I think he's starting to show that over and over again. Even though he did put up, obviously, 54 points, he was assertive. He got his clearly. But he also looked for other guys as well. I thought he did a great job of passing the ball, making sure it swung around. And then, like you said, John, making those decisions quickly, knowing that, okay, this is the angle that I have. I'm going to take it right now, and I'm not going to waste any time. I'm not going to look around. I'm just going to go straight to the rim and attack, Instead of going back, reverting to three-point shots, easier looks. No, he kept encouraging that. He kept, forcing the issue, but in a good way, getting to the free throw line. What do you have, 17 attempts? This is – He could do this more often, but seeing it again on this stage, a national televised game against the Nets, against Durant, against Kyrie, he needed that, and so did the Celtics.
Yeah, I think the difference, you guys kind of hit on it, but the difference Tatum now is that he's not playing against these guys like he's their kid. Like he's just like getting like a pat on the head, like, hey, good job, kid. Like, you might right. make it in this league. Like he's playing against them like man to man, and he almost like expecting to go, toe to toe with these guys. Not just like John said, happy to be there or happy to have a good performance or happy to get acknowledgement from these guys after the game. And of course, they see everything that's out there, good and bad. So I don't expect that to change, but not caring as much about it, not relying so much on the praise and feeding off the negative feedback. Just going out there and just go out there and just be like a badass. You know what I mean? Like just kill dudes. And that's kind of what it today felt like.
I think you edited yourself out and then you said sorry.
Well, have you guys ever, I'll ask you guys a question, to be honest, like everyone's like, yeah, Tatum's got skills, he can score, he's blah, 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 and this and that. Have you ever, based off of his demeanor, his attitude, the other aspects of his game, helping his teammates be better and doing all of the other things necessary to win, have you ever felt he had all of that to be the number one on a championship level team prior to very recently? Have you had that vibe about him? Everything I feel about Tatum was a projection, which is when he gets better at this and when he does that, and if he's more consistent and if he can do that and if he can do this, which while it's possible given someone who's as good as he is, it was not a guarantee. Some people just don't. Some people are just scorers, and that's good enough. A person who scores as well as Jason Tatum does is a Hall of Fame player if he does that over the course of his career. That's really, really good. It's the question is, well, is he in that convo? Can he do that stuff? And like until recently, did you feel that?
So I think to an extent, yeah, because I think we saw it in flashes. But for me, the difference between like a great top tier player and another, super talented basketball player, it's the mental side of things. You have to really, really, really want to be great and maintain that level of consistency over a number of years or seasons. And that's going to generate winning, and that's going to generate like a winning culture. So prior to that, I mean, I thought it was just more of a maturity thing and a mental. We had to find that mentality of wanting to be, a killer up there,
not wanting to be captain, all of that stuff.
Exactly. Right. So now, over the last, I would say 2 months, right around the time where this winning streak started, I am starting to see a difference in his like leadership ability. So that to me is what's going to take him to, the top of the top. And a game like today just shows that. I mean, Josue has always been a huge Tatum supporter and guy. And I think that's because we've seen what he's capable of in spurts, but it's just more of, can you maintain that level of consistency? And bring the other thing we said too, one more thing is you have to make others around you better. You just can't be about dropping 50 points and then taking the L.
But he didn't have high assist totals, but he had I would imagine a lot of secondary assists if I had to look it up, but it was just moving the ball when it it was moving the ball when it needed to be moved at the right time to keep the offense going, whether it ended up in an assist or not. He made the right. It's all about making the right decisions. As much as possible.
Giving the game what it needs.
Go ahead, Josue.
No, I'm just gonna say I think that's what worried me, right? Like a couple months ago. Look, we know how good of a player he is. We know how good of a scorer he is, and he could be one of the best. One day he's going to be. But it was a matter of, does he know that it's gonna take everyone else to follow? You know what I mean? Like, you have to have everyone else have to be on your side as well. You can go out and score 50, 60 points, and like John said, it could be in a losing effort, but it's not going to push the needle. It's not going to push the ball in the sense of where this team needs to be, where this franchise needs to be. And it's very telling again. What we talked about in the last couple of weeks, or the last time we were all on that podcast he did with JJ Redick, when he's like, man, it's really hard to win. It was maybe I overlooked how difficult it truly is, because I had some of the best scorers in the league on my side, and now that I'm the one leading, I have to make sure that everyone follows me the way I follow them. And I think it just took him 20, 25, 30 games to really get that down. And once he started to ramp up and find that cohesive unit, or Ime rather, find that cohesive unit with this tight lock 8-man rotation, he hasn't let it go. But at the same time, these guys continue to make strides to work as a team and continue to put out the kind of effort that'll stop top tier talent like we saw today.
Yeah, definitely.
It's different. Different dude playing with a different kind of sense of purpose, and putting together all of those things that you saw flashes of on a much more consistent basis. And again, that it's got to be me sort of thing, and I'll take it. I want it. Give it to me, and not just I'm in a funk, so let me shoot my way out of it sort of thing.
Or down,
which would always be the thing,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can't get too high, you can't get too low, but you have to bring it every game, one way or the other. So if that's something that we're starting to see more of, and we are, then I think that's how you build a winning team around a superstar player. The rest of the pieces fall into place. I'm not calling Jaylen Brown just another piece. Like, I understand that not just Jason Tatum and Brown. Credit to Brown for playing today. I actually am really glad that he did play. Obviously I don't want anyone to re-injure himself, but this is the type of game where you want to have all hands on deck, because you want to see what you got, and you want to see what works and what doesn't, especially if you're going to run into these guys again in the playoffs. You want to have some good film to base it on. So I think they're going to learn a lot from this game. They'll have to fix some mistakes that they made out there. It wasn't a perfect game by any stretch. It was an entertaining game. I'm sure there's a lot of things that when they watch the film, they're going to want to do differently. I mean, they did give up 120 points, so it wasn't like this, A+ all around game. But by I'm not complaining about the win at all. I'm just saying, there's going to be things that they'll learn. But in order to really learn, you got to see your best players out there in those situations. So, the next time they see the guys, Ben Simmons could be on the court, so it's going to look a little different anyways. But at least they'll have some real, concrete evidence of, we can compete with these guys. Not only can we compete with them, but hell, we're better than them. So this is a game where, I think they already believed it, but I think now a lot of other people might start to believe in it too. I know that there's a lot of Celtics fans who are on the brink of wanting to fall in love with these guys, but not wanting to get hurt. If you've ever been there, and I think a lot of people are over that line now.
Nothing changes. Everything is they still have kind of just razor thin margin for error here with just whether it be injuries or just needing needing performances, needing your best players to perform at an extremely high level, because, it's the drop off is fairly significant. I'm not going to turn, 18 minutes into the show into what the hell's going on with Derrick White or other bench concerns. But, I'll point to one point in this game, which was critical, was Tatum goes out at about the 4-minute mark of that third quarter. And I'm guessing he was probably going to sit the duration here and come back in the fourth and probably play the whole fourth. And about 90 seconds later, Celtics looked like they'd never played offense before. And it was a unit that had Brown and White and Smart and Tice and maybe Pritchard. I forget exactly. And it was, Brooklyn went on a little run, and Ime just looked over. He's like, nah, you got to go. He came back in. He played the rest of the game. And, that's
It was one of those games from the
Not
bench.
something you can always do, but it was like it was
Yeah.
when Tatum wasn't on the floor, things didn't look right because he was literally their everything. He puts up 41 minutes tonight. But I mean, he did not get a rest. He sat 90 seconds the entire second half. So he,
it was a superstar type game for him. I mean, they needed to jump on his back, and and he was able to get it done. So that's why it's like when you talk about best wins, I mean, yeah, it's definitely one of the best wins in a long time. Great team game, I don't know. I mean, they did need 54 points from Jason Tatum. So yeah, there's still questions about the depth for sure. Who you're really going to rely on offensively off the bench. So those are questions that may or may not find answers to over the next couple of weeks here. But to know that you have a guy like Tatum that can put a performance together like he did today, the entertainment value aside, I mean, this is a player that I think you're not going to really hear anyone say like the Celtics need to seriously consider making a trade here. I don't think you're going to find many people who feel that way anymore, because he's showing right now like he's a top, like you said, John. He's kind of in that top 10 category for sure. Yeah. So and again we talk about it sometimes, but 24 years old. I know it seems like he's been in the league. He seems older because he's been in the league for 5 years now. But this guy is still trending upwards, and he's already got 4 50-point games. Like his ability to just take over a game, there's only a handful of players in the league that can do it, and a couple of them are on the backside of their careers now. So you're talking about a player who could theoretically be the best scorer in the NBA over the next six years or so.
Yeah. The LeBron's 56 got about 12 hours of play, and then Tatum comes in and drops a 54.
Yeah.
Tatum's like 56, huh? All right.
LeBron, yeah, right. LeBron, that's a name that you want to be in the same sentence as, LeBron, Durant, those guys, and he's creeping his way up there for sure.
Let's bring in Bobby, who was just listening in on some interviews. Bobby, is that right?
Bobby. Oh, can't hear him.
No, you're muted.
Try again. I hope this wasn't what it was like on
there
Zoom
it is.
call.
Go ahead. Unmuted.
We just got Ime, and basically his foresight through this whole thing that was going to turn around panned out. His confidence that the defense would turn the offense, that they'd be fine, that they'd offensive end. It all panned out, and you see in this game, not so much defense, but offense, as you talked about early in the show. I was listening, and John leading them through a pretty impressive offensive showing by Brooklyn in their own right. I got worried at times through this one. The defensive rebound was terrible. The Nets put in a million putbacks. The defensive interior play at times was rough against Aldridge Brown and others, but then they really locked in late, and they started running some tight sets. The Brown one I know you guys talked about was one of the best all year. And listen, at this point, I teased it a couple weeks ago in Brooklyn when these two teams played. I asked the question. Now I'm ready to say it definitively. I think this team can win a championship. Like there's no doubt in my mind.
There it goes.
I don't see any
Who had
team
3 minutes?
No, he didn't even go that far with me. Damn, Bobby. Jeez.
I don't see any team that can really expose what they're doing right now. They can punch some cracks into it. You saw Durant and Kyrie do that tonight. They end up getting away from their offense, though, and doing the whole Bruce Brown thing in the third. I thought that really killed them. I'm not worried about the Nets. I never have been. That doesn't seem to be a team that's going to be in their way.
How can you not be worried about the Nets?
They've lost 17 of 20.
They have not. A bunch of guys wearing Nets uniforms have. The Nets.
So when's it going to magically click? Is this the LeBron switch that they're going to turn on?
No, this is much better than that team. These guys are much better. These guys, when last we left them healthy last year, and again, I know the personnel is slightly different, they were such a wagon that it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to sweep to the NBA Finals, and only injuries and a few fluky things derailed them at that point. Otherwise, they were ridiculously good. And yes, we don't know how the Simmons in place of Harden mix is going to change things here could be
But right now, he's just being added to the mix. So,
right now, you're just adding somebody to a team that you had to go toe-to-toe with, give them everything that you have, and get 54 points out of your best player at home to sneak out a victory. That you can't dismiss them. I'm not saying the Celtics can't beat them, but to dismiss them seems a little bit premature. Just based off
say you're not worried about them. We haven't even seen them.
Yeah, based off of what their 6 through 10 players did for that 15-game stretch when nobody was playing.
I should have saw this coming when as soon as the game was over. I was like, man, Tatum, huh? And Bobby turned and looked at me and just goes, "This team's unbelievable." I should have known right there.
They are, and listen, I don't want to lean on the Nets too long because we'll have a long time to look at what they're going to become. But right now, Kyrie's a part-time player. Ben Simmons didn't even show up to this game for who knows why, and he seems weeks away, if at all. I don't know when
away.
this is.
Who knows?
I don't know when this is.
Yeah, man, this crowd. Come on, Bobby. Face it, this crowd could.
He just had a setback, Jimmy, and like a back injury out of nowhere.
This crowd could give Simmons a whole nother kind of setback. So I'm not shocked at all.
I'm worried.
Yeah. Like it would have been a mental breakdown, maybe.
I'm worried about the thought of
it's not
Simmons.
for everybody.
What we saw Simmons do like Christmas 2021 or 2020 in the 2021, that range into the playoffs that year. That's a scary thought what he can do defensively, but it's been so long. And he's just starting to get back into shape. And I saw him shooting at practice the other day, the videos, and it was not pretty. And
oh my God, that video of him passively, he might as well have had like his pockets filled with cell phones for all the effort he was giving it. He was just sitting there just lofting these lefty baseline jumpers, and he missed like 7 out of 8. It was so ugly.
So like, yes, there's a lot of asterisks around what the Nets are doing right now, but this is just never been a collective that I've had confidence in. Do you see the way Tatum was walking to the basket in crunch time, uncontested for layups?
I know, but again,
and the Nets were fouling their heads off all game.
It's not a bubble bursting thing, Bobby, but Ben Simmons is really, really good at defense. And while Jalen has taken him to school on a couple of occasions, he does do a good job against Tatum. Again, a different version of Tatum.
They have to get there. I mean,
he has to get there, but he changes the equation a little bit simply based off of, Tatum got wherever he wanted to today. You're not telling me it's going to be that easy if Simmons is out there checking him, because that's what he does, He makes life harder.
It's a hypothetical at this point. Like, we just don't know what that's going to look like, and they have to get into the playoffs, which right now Kyrie can't play a home game, and he can't play a hypothetical playing game in Toronto either, which is what they're looking at right now. So
that's funny, actually.
They're in rough shape, and it's going to take a lot to dig out of this. I mean, Durant even said it last week, like, we're running out of time, essentially, is what he said there. Finally, an admission that it's kind of panic time in Brooklyn, but I don't want to focus on them too much. What the Celtics were able to do defensively today, I thought was sharp. They bought into what they were doing, even when it got a little rocky there at the beginning with Durant just flushing shots over Rob and Horford. Kyrie got a bunch to go in that first half. They were shooting the lights out, and the Celtics were right there with them. They were both like 60% to start the game, but then started reeling in a little bit. And what gave me the most confidence out of this one, not only the execution down the stretch, but blowing an 8-point lead, going down in the last few minutes there, and getting it together to score a few times late and take the game like they did. The fourth quarter execution was excellent. And that was like the one question I had left as they started to show that they could defend this team. I was like, all right, let's see what this looks like in like a 2 to 4 point game with 2-3 minutes left. And they were excellent. So like they've checked every single box that you could have questioned about this group at this point. We said coming into this game, this was going to be the ultimate test of whether the defense could hold on and string together stops. And in the moments where it really mattered, they did. And just exploding to start the second and third the way they did after some rough entrances to both those quarters, they were just super impressive here. They really were. And Brown, too, playing through the injury, I thought looked really good. What more can you question about this group? Like, there's so little that you can nitpick here.
I mean, you can, but we don't need to do it now. There's, again, it's a team that has, it's pretty. We mentioned the moment in the third where Tatum sat and everything kind of went to hell, and Ime had to pull him back in. You had to play him 41 minutes. He had to put up 54 to sneak out this win. That's a hard thing to do. And the other starters played relatively well in this game too. It's not like you got bad performances throughout. You got
Rob
a really good
great.
performance.
Smart was great.
Great performance from Al,
Marcus.
knocking down threes. Marcus was great. Rob had a great first half, not so much in the second.
Where did he go?
Yeah.
I didn't see him at all in the second half.
Yeah.
I missed the Big Al game on Thursday.
Again, Bobby, I think it's the same thing. It's not every team. The Celtics have clearly a formula that will work because they can. We've seen it now enough times. And again, you're talking about beginning of this week was that week where you're like, you're going to get Brooklyn as close to full as possible. And you've got Memphis, which is probably the best and healthiest team you've played.
And they blew through Atlanta again.
And you know, after a crap first half, they absolutely killed Atlanta. So it's hard to not put them in the conversation. There's no question about it now. You know,
well, I think one thing we have to also highlight too about Jason Tatum is that a lot of these points for the last two performances, they're coming in the second half, right? 10 points in the last game, 34 second half points in this one. Obviously, you had a big night, 50 plus. Like, it's unreal. And you couple that with the Celtics playing defense the way they've been playing. I mean, that should be a recipe for success. That should be a win. Now, for Tatum to have to do that throughout the course of a best of 7 series against the likes of teams like the Miami Heat, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, for me, those are my big 3 right there. I mean, those are the ones where I'm like, that's a lot for the Celtics. Now, granted, what we saw against the Nets is very encouraging. 2 top-tier stars, scorers, and Kyrie and Durant. But, yeah, I mean, we still have to see more of it. I mean, I'm just not quite ready to call this team a championship-bound team or one that can win or even get to the NBA Finals. But they are looking good. I mean, they are looking very good. And there's a lot to be said about Tatum, specifically what he's been doing in the second half of games.
But they're contenders. They're contenders now, and
they're contenders.
Previously, they weren't. So, like, that's where I'm at now. You know, I made the leap from not believing that this team could even make the playoffs at one point this year to now believing that are they the favorite to win it all in my eyes? I'm not going to say that.
There's a lot of favorites.
But yeah, like they're in the.
Then there's no favorites. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, right. They're in the conversation though of like teams that could theoretically find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then who knows? Like crazier things have happened. This team on any given night can suffocate you on one end, and then they've got a guy or two really that can drop 50 on you just like that. I'm just pretty good recipe.
I'm so impressed by the recipe. Just one sexuous way, like the recipe of playing Rob off Bruce Brown in a game like this, and the Nets getting distracted for a whole quarter trying to force the ball to Bruce Brown. That's exactly what you can do to a lot of different teams, maybe like 28 out of 30 teams in this league, because most teams don't have a killer as their fifth man. And they just had Brown launching shots. And by the end of it, he didn't show to be reliable. He hurt them a little bit early in that third. But when you're taking shots away from Durant and Kyrie because of the way the Celtics play defense and sending them to Bruce Brown, you're winning. And I thought that's how the game went in the second half here.
It was the opposite, I thought. It was the Nets kind of, exactly, played into Celtics strategy. I think if the Nets worked through the Celtics switching scheme and just ISO'd KD and Durant, the Celtics weren't able to stop that in the first half at all. And so that was a mistake, the Bruce Brown situation. It's odd to me that Durant only finished with whatever he finished with. He should have been up in the 40s as well because
he didn't shoot enough.
There was no answer. He didn't shoot enough. He should have had 10 more shots in this game. And they should have consistently looked for, just get the ball in his hands, let the Celtics switch, and then go to work. It's not anybody's fault. There's literally no stopping him. I thought, Rob contested a couple shots on a switch, Grant a couple of times, Tatum played him straight up pretty well. There's just no defending him.
And we're really going to do, I'm seeing this in the chat again, the Nets without Simmons. The Nets without Simmons are the Nets. Simmons has not joined the Nets. That's not like a caveat on this
Bobby,
one.
If the Celtics traded for someone right now and we hadn't seen them yet, would you not be saying,
if it was Ben Simmons, we had a conversation about Ben joining the Celtics.
You're literally discounting him as like a person who exists. Like he's not like alive. Like, you're writing him off. You're writing him off like he's literally like Santa Claus. Like he just doesn't. He's not.
Bobby,
not the Easter Bunny, dude.
It's not the Easter Bunny. He's going to play at some point. We don't know what kind of impact he'll have, but
he's going to help though. It's not like he's going to
doesn't
make
exist.
them worse.
How do we know?
Okay, Bobby.
If the
Celtics added Ben Simmons to their team, would they be a better team right now?
No, he wouldn't be playing.
If he just added
Once
him
he
without
plays.
trading,
When's he gonna play?
Else, that doesn't make them a little better than they are.
Again, prior to last season's playoffs, and
I
we
think
know
that's what
Ben
they're trying to
Simmons
say.
has
That's what
flaws.
they're trying to
This
say.
argument.
Prior to last season's playoffs, when he was afraid to shoot and missed some free throws, Ben Simmons was an all-star, considered one of the better players in the NBA.
How long ago was that, John?
Everyone's talking about like that was like
Not long enough.
11 years ago. Like you got some veteran past
feels
his
like it.
prime.
This isn't
you
Theo
grab some
Ratliff's
aging-
contract, dude. Like,
that
That
happens.
wasn't even 11 months ago, man.
it's not
Oh
Theo
my
Ratliff
God.
we're talking
It's-
about here.
People are talking about like literally you signed somebody
John,
who was good in
you
2014.
said it yourself. We all thought he was going to hit the ground running here. I think we had some questions in our mind, but I think we at least thought he was going to put on the uniform and start playing
He
right away.
could-
And you said it
I didn't think
yourself.
so.
He's not ready to go. For whatever reason, he's not. And there's only, 5-10 games left by the time he gets back?
You may be
to
right.
ramp up?
He may not be ready. He may never be ready. He may never be close to what he'll be at full capacity. He may be broken. I'm just saying you can't say with certainty he is. All of what you're saying is possible, but I don't think you could discount it with conviction. That's all I'm saying.
I like
he
the
could
trade
come
for
back
them.
and be a massive difference maker. He could come back and be Russell Westbrook and throw them all out of sync. There's problems on this team. All of them are true. The Kyrie part-time sort of thing, having to play KD insane amounts of minutes because, he needs to carry your offense. And who the hell knows what Simmons is going to do if and when he returns. I just don't think you can say I'm not counting on him at all. He could be a difference maker. Right.
You can't.
That's all.
You can't just pretend he doesn't exist to make your point that you're not worried about them because he does exist and theoretically will make them better. How much better? Well, that's
We don't know.
where the argument lies. We're not sure if it's going to be enough to get them over the hump. But to act like he's not going to play. I mean, if he didn't play at all this season, that would be a shock to think everybody. For sure. I mean, they didn't trade Harden for him to not play at all this year. Now, whether or not he's a week away or 3 weeks away or he's not going to play in the playoffs, that's another story. I don't know. There's so little information on where this guy, what he's capable of right now, that we're all just sitting around guessing, and it's all hypotheticals.
Right. The version that exists of Ben Simmons in people's minds is the guy from last year's playoffs and the guy who hasn't played at all this year, and they just think he's all of a sudden he's been relegated to bum, and he's not a bum.
He's got to work his way back from that. I mean, that is the last we saw. He hasn't pushed to get back here at all, it feels like. And at the point that he hits the ground running, he's going to have to work up from that point that he was at when we last saw him. If he proves it otherwise, fine. But
I think you can question his professionalism because he should have been more ready to play if he was just keeping himself in shape. Maybe he misses a couple games getting acclimated and practicing, but this seems like almost where he was it sounds like he was just maybe sitting around. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why he's still not ready to play. So if you want to question his professionalism in this case, sure. But I think we all know what he's capable of, talent-wise. So that's why I'm still assuming that he can help them. Now, if I'm wrong, if turns out it's a historic bust of a trade, then I'll hand up. I'll say it, but I'm just not going to say that right now.
It's within the realm of possibility. I mean, what you're saying absolutely could happen, Bobby. I'm just saying
I felt the same way about you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when we were talking about the hypothetical trade, we were like, oh, this makes a lot of sense for the Nets. For all the reasons you're saying, he could help them a lot. But then we see that he's not playing and he's not going 1,000% in the practice videos we see. And
it's an inauspicious beginning. He doesn't He doesn't look interested. He doesn't look physically ready. And right now they're talking about him as if maybe stop asking me about Simmons for a while because it's not.
Man, poor Steve Nash, man.
Yeah, Simmons isn't a real thing right now.
He can't coach a team, man. He's got sideshow after sideshow. I don't know
and
how.
that challenge. He's in trouble. I haven't loved his performance as the coach of this team. I gotta say it. Listen, we know what they brought him in for, personality management, things like that. He didn't have experience as a coach in this league.
Yeah, zero.
And that challenge where Claxton gets out on Tatum, and it was pretty clearly a foul there. What is he doing? And a lot of stuff. I've talked to a lot of Nets fans throughout the year who haven't loved his rotations. Certainly hasn't gotten the most out of the young guys and the depth guys when everyone else has been missing. They just keep losing games here. So you got to start to question if he's going to be the coach of this team going forward after this year. I mean, it all comes down to Durant and what he decides. Like, Kyrie's still there because Durant decided that Kyrie was going to be part of this still, despite the vaccine thing. So maybe Durant gives him the seal of approval too. But what they're building here doesn't look great.
If Simmons plays and he's anywhere near physically ready to play, he makes them better.
Speaking of, yeah.
That's
I just love how
Sure.
the two super teams and the Nets and the Lakers are both under 500. Like,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah. Speaking of,
Well, it's an availability thing for sure.
what did you guys think, Josue and Bobby, of Kyrie's return to the TD Garden today? What was that like?
And then we're going to spend the rest of the show talking about Big Baby.
He was all right, deal.
Yeah.
He was rattled from the
Do
beginning.
we have that clip? We should put that up.
Josue, what was it?
I think he was rattled from the beginning, honestly, in my opinion. And it's not just the crowd, honestly. I just thought it was also the Celtics' defense. I mean, they threw a lot of bodies at him when guys were on the switch. Even if you were big, they were taking them, like right at the 3-point arc. They weren't letting him get comfortable. I just thought he had a really tough time of trying to find his groove. Even though he did start to knock a few shots down in that second half, it just felt like he could never sort of have the rhythm that he needed.
You know who gave him trouble? You're gonna laugh.
Grant.
Tice.
Oh, okay.
Tice gave him a lot of trouble in
Tatum
the
a couple
lane.
times too.
Tice blitzing him at the half court line caused a big turnover in the second half. I was surprised to see Tice out there, and he actually was pretty big for what they were trying to do to counter Kyrie there late, because he started hot. He was hitting a ton of shots, 3 of 6 early. So that means he finished, we'll do some quick math here, like 5 of 12. So they did a good job. I mean, about as good of a job as you can do against a guy like this who looks sharp, who looks great, who's finally, I think, starting to get into his full season shape here, despite some in and out, back and forth stuff from him at the same time here as we talk about Simmons. He's dangerous for sure. I thought he had a few key turnovers late in the game that killed him, but he was also pretty active defensively to where he was given smart fits at times. So it wasn't him at his best for sure. He had some moments. He was definitely scary. Every time he had the ball in his hands, you were always afraid of what he could do there. But in the end, 19 points, 8 of 18, as you see here, you'll hold Kyrie to that and feel good about it. I thought the defense was super sharp switching here. Even when Pritchard came in, the scrambling they were doing to get him back on the guards, excellent. So 120 doesn't look like a good defensive performance, but they were in the right spots, and the Nets hit a lot of tough shots.
Well, they blitzed him for sure, and I think just generally, even in limited action this year, he's been getting to the rim a little bit less than he normally does, because that's something he obviously can do. But they did a good job kind of moving the bodies in and around. You could tell he was thinking about today, because right off the bat, first possession, when he got it, he got booed. I think it was Smart who D'd him up. He couldn't get where he wanted to go. Maybe there was a switch there, and he threw that weird behind the back pass out of bounds. So he's already trying to do something big early, and then. The other reason, the game and the important significance of the game and playing well was big to him is because he played defense, which is something he doesn't always do. So he put in full effort. He was, he wasn't the normal pick magnet you see from time to time. He was kind of fighting through, and he was trying to stay with people, and he was pretty aggressive defensively. So to his credit, he went for it. So this is This is an absolutely acceptable hold Kyrie in check sort of game if you're the Celtics.
We do have Marcus Smart at the podium. I'm gonna go hop in with him real quick.
You go hop in with Marcus.
You go hop on over there, Bob.
Tell him happy birthday from the Garden Report.
He's gonna be done by the time he gets there. Yeah,
it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Marcus. Good birthday gift for you today. Some great Kyrie sucks chants today too. That was like vintage Garden. Anyone who's been to a really big Celtics game knows what it's like when you've got good fans, the loud fans. And this was a game where you knew everyone had this one circled and everyone was gearing up to really give it to Kyrie and Durant. So that's always fun. I like when I hear through the TV. Obviously, I wasn't at the game, but Josue, I mean, it sounded like it was pretty damn loud.
Yeah, where you been?
You could easily make it out.
Sorry, this is an oldie but goodie in the comments. I havenn't seen Nat chime in for a while. She's not.
Wow, what you got?
Nothing. She just said, just haven't seen her name pop up. That's all.
And I know some people they're not crazy about the whole let's just keep booing him every time he touches the ball, but I liked it to start. Obviously, it died down a little bit by the fourth quarter, but man,
that's the fun of it.
It was a playoff atmosphere in here, and even for a matinee game, so that was great as well. Yeah. Kyrie, he needed to get this under his belt. I think for his own personal reasons, but I was surprised that he wasn't out here doing his pregame ritual. And no, I'm not trying to make a joke about the sage like he did that one time, but he sort of just went into it. Like he didn't. I thought he would try to take just to sort of, take temperature of things. Just get out there early before the crowd came. But no, he came. The only time he came out to the floor was when they were all came out as a team, and then the boo started and never ended.
Sorry, I was looking at something and I realized that I blocked.
You're making all that noise.
Screen.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't making noise. I was just blocking the screen. But anyways, yeah, Josue, I co-signed. Yeah. You expected him to get into a little bit of a pregame flow, right?
I didn't think he was going to apologize any different or anything,
Yeah.
but I thought he would get a feel for the parquet since it's been a while. It's been a while since that happened.
Exactly. But I don't know what he was doing in the locker room pregame. But hey, I thought the Celtics. Again, I'll repeat myself here. I just thought that they really showed today that, this was a game that you could tell that they wanted to. I'm not saying the Nets didn't want it. I think the Nets certainly did as well. But the Celtics knew that this was a game that was like a prove it game. If they threw up a dud today, this is a depressing show because we're saying, wow, this is what happens when you play a good team. The Celtics didn't show up at home, and the Nets are going to get Simmons, and it's going to be like Sixers, Nets, and Bulls or whatever. And the Celtics are like a tier below. So it was good that they were able to show that, hey, we're in this conversation too. We're actually, in some people's eyes, we're leading the conversation. So it was a good day to be a Celtic or a Celtic fan, I would say.
This was awesome. This was great juice.
This is a pride game. This is a pride game. How many of these have we had?
Playoff game. We're talking
We
about.
don't get many of these.
You based off just simply the amount of people who are here kind of hanging out with us in the post game. Jimmy and I were talking off air before we started. We're like, awesome game. We were locked in. We're watching it. We're having a ball. We've got 3 reporters down there. Sherrod's there as well. He might hop on in a little. Bobby and Josue. Phenomenal crowd. And I was like, I don't know how many people are going to join us. It's Sunday.
Right. It's
not
a beautiful
weather's
day
not terrible. It's a nice day.
Yeah. It's like
4 o'clock.
out.
I'm like, it might be kind of a dud. And then bang, 2K jump in here and are like, let's
Are we
go,
at 2K?
John. We got close. We got to about 19 on the 2 channels.
Okay.
I do want to say, and Andrew Bryant here in the comments might be one of our greatest supporters when it comes to this. I always feel squeamish to ask about it, but guys, please like and subscribe. If you're in here in the video, give us the likes. Subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to our channels. It helps us out. It helps us get more content to you. It's really big for the brand, so we do appreciate it.
Yep.
Give us a like. Give us a subscribe.
Help
it as
us
many
help
times.
you.
Yes, help us help you, okay? It allows me to pay Jimmy's bloated salary and keep him coming back here.
That's right.
Keep guys like
Sunday.
Sherrod.
I charge
Get
double on
guys-
Sundays.
Exactly. Get guys making double time. Get guys like Sherrod in here, which is a really big deal when we're able to do things like that. So let's keep it going, guys. Give us a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and
Follow,
we do want to
whatever
mention
the hashtag is.
if you like the chat going on here in YouTube, which is always a fun part of the show, we have another one that's kind of running all the time here as we have joined Discord. So please join our Discord server, clnsmedia.com/Discord. Head over there. You'll find Jimmy Toscano hanging out from time to time.
Pop in.
Pops in.
I didn't get to the last couple of days. I've been away, but I'll be. The Discord's going to be pop. I bet you it's popping right now. I know people do Discord during the show too sometimes.
Yep.
So it's a fun spot, and it's all it's all Celtics fans. This Discord is only about the Celtics. It's, none of this other crap. So if you just want to sort of gauge what other fans are thinking, or if you have an opinion, you want to share it. Josue and Sherrod went in there and they did a live audio. Was it Thursday? You guys did that?
Yeah, where were you?
Yeah, that was
Jimmy.
cool.
You're gonna be there.
And look, we jump in from time to time, but this thing's created for you guys. It's an egalitarian space here. Everybody just jumps in, does their.
Yeah.
Everyone's equal here. You're just here to chat and hang out and have fun. And obviously, you're all interested in the same stuff. It's a really a fun place to drop in some memes and other things like that. We had some good times with Bobby. Nobody's mentioned. If there's no Cosby sweater vibes, if there's no Cosby sweater memes on Discord right now,
Yeah, what the
with Bobby's outfit,
man, there will be now.
I'll be wildly disappointed. So I will check back in a little bit. But guys, head over there, sign up, hang out, and
Poor
join
Bobby.
the conversation.
Bobby can't wear anything. Jeez.
He really can't.
I'm
really
actually
can't,
going to say Bobby can wear everything because, he gets away with it, okay? The rest of us
Depending
can't.
how you slice it. That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, back to the game. we've worn out the good, and I don't want to move over to some of the other stuff we want to talk about, but I did want to talk before we get into anything mildly critical on such a good game. Horford finding his 3-point stroke is a fun little added thing here that kind of. Oh, sorry.
Somebody in traffic?
Yeah, someone got pissed off.
Al dropping threes is sneaky a big deal.
Told y'all.
Because he's been off all damn year with that 3-point
But it changes
shot,
the
That's
dynamic
the
in that
law.
first unit.
It's the law of averages.
Yeah. If he can shoot close to his percentage, even that's 36% for his career. Forget about the 42, 43% outlier season he had with the Celtics that one year. That was insane. But 35, 36, 37 is manageable. You know, when you had a starting lineup where you have Rob doesn't shoot and you had Tatum and Smart and Al all shooting at about 30%, you know, like league average is 34. That's how bad they were in the first half of the year when the shots weren't falling. Now you're seeing Tatum creep up, you know, he's up to 33, 34%, Al all of a sudden starting to creep up. It makes a huge difference if Al can kind of stretch that floor and be out there because he's available on that kick a lot. They found him a lot of times today, and him able to knock down half of those shots with confidence is huge.
Yeah, no,
Totally.
no question. And I love that the starting lineup, obviously, they've been starting off games so well. We saw it again today. And we saw, in my opinion, there isn't maybe Jalen to a certain extent because of his injury, but there isn't a weak spot defensively throughout that lineup. And Al Horford has a lot to do with that. He's going to get those open threes, and he's going to just not shy away from that. And you want him to take those shots. He's not going to always finish the games, but I love the starting lineup because they just bring in you a lot of energy. And ever since the All-Star break, specifically from Al, you're seeing that on both ends of the floor. You know, we know what he means on defense, but on offense, I mean, that three to start things off. He had like a 5-0 run to start the game off a couple of games ago. He's always been the guy who's going to constantly make sure that the ball is moving, setting screens. He just does so much out there, and you need that to start games. You know, I think that's been huge for the Celtics, not just in the first half, but just after halftime as well to start the second half. You just see a dominant, much more dominant team in those both instances.
Yes.
You know.
And Al playing well fires up the team. Like you can tell they all love Al, and his success is like important to them. And they probably see all the work that he puts in and the shots that he takes in practice and pregame and all that stuff. And they probably all know that we all know that he's a much better outside shooter than what we've seen this year. So, like you said, Josue, the law of averages, you know, you just hope that it'll come back around. And right now it is. And, adding that to the mix, you know, him being able to stretch the court out like that and make defenders more honest is just only going to help guys like, you know, Smart or White. You know, we haven't talked about him, but just the facilitating aspect of it, being able to have like a little bit of more of an inside-outside game is huge.
You were just in on Marcus. What's the skinny, Bobby?
Oh, lots of compliments for Tatum, certainly. He talked after last game about getting the hell out of the way when Tatum has it, and had some comments similar to that again here, being ready to make a play when he's going to make the read for those guys. And I think that definitely is a transformation from Smart as well. But also started talking about how with this officiating thing that we've tracked throughout the year, that was certainly a big goal of Ime's entering the season, not complaining to refs. And Smart feels like they've reached a point where they say what they got to say and they just leave it. And I saw a moment from Tatum where that didn't necessarily happen, but it was definitely a spot where he dove in on a miss in transition. Pritchard got that steal on Kyrie, ran out, missed the reverse layup, and Tatum got his hands on a ball, and he was definitely getting banged around in there. And he just kind of left it and got back on defense again. I don't know if they're like complaint proof at this point, but there's been progress in that regard.
Tatum's still not getting. Look, everyone agrees Tatum has a right to be pissed. He hurts himself with the amount of complaining because I feel like it's still probably like 10 to 15 reactions per game, and the refs kind of
getting better at it.
The refs clock it. You know, there's still a lot, and it just doesn't help him. You gotta work it. You gotta just have those conversations, get them.
You
to
wish
like
it was
you.
at zero, but it's never gonna.
No, it's not that, but it's just there's a way to do it, and there's not. You know, like Marcus, who doesn't have a great reputation, obviously. Like, you know, he's matured in that sense. You had Jalen for a period of time. He was really annoyed with something, and he had like multiple conversations with the refs off to the side. You can talk to them, but all of the histrionics, you know, and the this and that hurts you. But he does not
getting back in time.
Yeah, exactly. It delays
tough.
you getting back. He doesn't get superstar calls. There's just a better way to get him than the way he does it. That's the only thing. But he doesn't get him. He definitely doesn't get the calls.
I think that's another thing that he's slowly starting to understand is that he sees hopefully he sees how he looks out there when he's watching back and he sees, okay, maybe even though there was contact there, it probably wasn't that egregious after all, or I probably just need to forget about it and get back on defense or whatever it is. You can't let that affect the next play and the next play and the next play, because that's what I saw these guys doing the beginning of this year, last season for stretches. They were just playing like unhappy out there. You know what I mean? Again, I've said it 100 times. It felt like nobody wanted to be there. Nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to win. And that's not the case right now. That's the complete opposite right now. And it translates to wins. I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but one is definitely affecting the other.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I think.
I was listening to the robot fight.
I think it's because
I was watching it.
I mean, winning. There's something to that, right? I mean, winning. People have fun while they're winning, but I think getting out of those bad habits wasn't fun, and you're seeing the other side of that. They stuck with Ime, and I think it was obviously a great coaching hire. I think he's someone that even deserves at least a couple of votes, for Coach of the Year, some consideration, because he's the one I blame for all this, for this huge turnaround, for everyone buying in. And of course, it started with Tatum and Brown, the two guys up top who weren't crazy about being captain of the team, but eventually turned their bad habits around, and it's made the team completely better. Like everyone's following their lead.
He makes 1,000% in the Coach of the Year conversation at this point.
Yeah, I want to stick on that. Kyrie just said some stuff. We'll get to it later, but
wait. Do we have to get to it like right now?
Yeah. Is it about Ime or what do you say?
No, it's just a scornful comment, but whatever.
No.
I want to hear it.
No.
I want to hear it right now.
That sounds better than praising Ime. Yeah.
Breaking news. Let's hear it.
Kyrie Irving on the booze in Boston. It's like a scorned girlfriend asking for an explanation why I left, but still wanting a text back.
We're in his head. You guys did it. Congratulations, guys. That's great.
Man, that's too funny.
That's what the bitter.
You're the bitter one,
metaphor, right? Yeah, that's what the bitter one sounds like. If we're going with this metaphor still, like you sound more bitter than the other guy, but all right.
Bro, that's like like that girl was lucky to get out of that relationship because that must have been miserable.
That's great.
That's like great.
You got him. You got him, guys. Nice job, everybody.
We got
like his. Yeah, he acknowledged you. He acknowledged you. You got him.
That was his try at the John relationship analogy.
That was kind of the text back, I guess.
Yeah, that was his shot at the relationship analogy.
Well, listen, man. And again, almost everything about Kyrie Irving kind of comes back a little bit to the same thing, which is like acting like he's the only person who's ever experienced anything in the history of the world and talking to people like literally like he's enlightening them about something that they've never heard of before. Like, I read this thing one time. It's like, we all know this, dude. Like, this is how sports works, like always and forever. There's nothing unique about your situation. You literally left the Celtics at the altar. You said you were going to marry them and you left. And you just ran off with someone else. They're going to hate you forever, and they have every reason to. You earn it. You own it.
I love this comment.
He's blaming the victim. He's victim blaming.
You guys were dying. You guys were dying for this dude 2 years ago. No, we were questioning him 2 years ago. Crazy. Like we've always been, outside of that first season, or the first 3-4 months when there was no Hayward and he was on a complete tear. Like, yeah, obviously we didn't. We weren't going to say, oh, man, he might leave Boston. But 2 years ago, around that time, right before the very end of his tenure here, everybody was questioning Kyrie. I mean, we questioned if he even gave it his all in that series against the Bucks. Never mind after he eventually did make his decision and leave to Brooklyn.
Right.
Like, he was being questioned well before he made that decision, well before that.
And Jimmy and I can flat out say, among the few people on record back there, and we were at the Garden and we're talking about it, and we're looking around at people and we're like, nobody's going to say this, huh? They should absolutely trade Kyrie at the trade deadline. Like, this is over. This is over. This is over. And they didn't. But anyway, back to Kyrie. Forget about that. This is his problem. And this is a problem with a lot of those guys like Kevin Durant. Like, yes, if people are going to question when you leave the Golden State Warriors for something. When you join Golden State, people are going to say you took the easy way out.
Yeah.
Your job is to not care about that. It's not to make them think something else. Okay, they're going to think that because that's what everybody would think. Okay, you can't beat them, join them. You did it. Own it and love the fact that you won titles and move on. Okay, it just shouldn't matter to you. With Kyrie, they're gonna hate you forever, and they probably have a right to because that's what fans do. Move on, dude. You know, like it's not the fans that are wronging you here. That's how fans are. That's what
how they
do.
are.
Yeah.
Just like they'll revere someone like Big Baby who helped win a championship.
Who sits in somebody else's seat.
Came off the bench, sat in someone's seat. We'll get into it later on. What happened? But what happened, John? You put it on the big screen, the crowd goes nuts. Like forever. It works the same way on the other side. When you're on the other side of things, exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, you can't make a girl go crazy and then be like, yeah, dude, she was crazy. Like you did that. She wasn't always crazy. You left her at the altar.
Everyone gets booed, guys. You get when you choose to leave a team. You get booed, and sometimes it stinks because sometimes those guys gave their all. We can go back to Johnny Damon, for example, was here with the Red Sox and, won a World Series and wanted to stay here and was literally begging for them to match a contract that was totally reasonable, and they didn't want him, and he left, and it really wasn't even his fault that he got booed, which I thought was wrong. Kyrie literally lied to you. You left, came back, stomped on the logo, told you to go F yourselves. You're going to get booed, dude. Like, it's
and then after all that, John, saying they need to get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. It's like he keeps crapping on him. It's like, these guys are sensitive, man.
Yeah.
Don't step on the logo.
Yeah. Every time you come here, it's something new that pissed them off, like pissed the fans off. What did you expect?
Yeah, I don't think anyone, and the reason why that doesn't quite line up as a good comparison is because nobody misses Kyrie that way. It's just like just fun to go back. Exactly. We're thriving. We're thriving. We don't need you.
He came, he left, he quit on you. He left.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's still that thing of like, oh, the kids don't get it. And the divide between him and the younger guys in the room. Well, still, now they're better than him. Well, at least Tatum is.
It doesn't even matter, Bobby, right? What matters is, like, let's say from a fan's perspective, it's always that kind of you juggle between, the victories and actually like liking a team. And people always harken back to like that Isaiah Thomas team and how likable they were. And when the Celtics were playing like crap this year, how unlikable they were. A team with Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, even if they'd won some, would be pretty like, you think you'd get behind that? Like, yeah, some people would say, give me the W's, I'll get behind anything. But just generally speaking, mentally and just as a fan, you're probably in a better place because Kyrie Irving's not in your life on a day-to-day basis. So while it sucked that he did what he did, the Celtics and Celtics fans are probably better off with it because this isn't fun for anybody. He went to Brooklyn and within a year, everyone's like, oh man, he's calling out the kids right out of the gate, and then all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden he just leaves in the middle of a season because he felt like taking a break and this stuff going on this year. He's just a pain in the butt.
And it's always the outside, right? Like, it's never them. It's never the whole Harden scenario. And this is on Durant, Irving, Harden himself, Nash. They all sat there and were like, we don't hear all this noise. Wait, what reports? Then all of a sudden, days later, and they said right before the deadline there'd be no trade. And the trade happens. And so all of a sudden, it's like, oh, let's just keep walking here and keep moving forward and everything's fine. Even though we just played this game for 2 weeks, that there wasn't a fiasco inside the Nets locker room that led to one of the most shocking trades of all time. So there's always, and it's on every single person on this team. You hear it from Durant. You hear it from the coach. You hear it from Kyrie, certainly. Always just blaming the outside. Oh, it's the media. Oh, it's all the talk. It's this and that. And it's never them. Even though through 2 years now, this super team hasn't come close. And they play the Durant foot game. Even Ime says it. And it always drives me crazy when Ime says, oh, if Durant's foot wasn't on the line. It's excuse after excuse after excuse.
And it's funny because
at some point, like, is anyone going to take accountability for anything? They got smashed by Giannis. Like, I think they think in their minds that they didn't lose to the Bucks. that it was just like some fluky thing and they just lost because
it was close, man. But Giannis, we thought Giannis blew his knee apart. The fact that they had that upper hand there, in that series, because Giannis didn't look like he'd be right, and then he came back. He was a freaking hero. So, that one was close. That was really close. That could have gone either way there. You don't know what happens after that, but whatever.
Bro.
You lost. It's everything counts. Stepping on the line counts. It's just how
Right.
it works.
I just think it's funny because Ime.
It's quite literally a line. When you cross it,
You can't cross. Yeah.
Can't cross it.
and they went to overtime and scored 2 points.
You got to make it behind.
0 from Harden,
That's the whole point.
0 from Durant.
The rules are very clear.
Everyone forgets overtime. They went to overtime and scored.
If only the basket were an
points.
inch shorter. You're like,
Yeah.
no, it's 10 feet everywhere.
It's like
Regulation.
the old Happy
Change
Gilmore.
that.
It's like, are these nuts regulation size or what?
They had overtime. They had 7 games.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised Ime says it because he's the accountability guy. He's the one that's
Yeah.
like, man, everyone's got to hold themselves accountable. But man, that line just ran away from Durant, man. It wasn't on him, It's like, what?
Yeah.
Ime was actually talking on the radio pregame with Grandy about coaching Kyrie, and pretty level-headed Ime stuff. He's interested in a lot of different stuff, and he was great to coach. But the one line you hear for everyone say he actually threw out there is that he's different. He's a different kind of guy, and Ime actually said that on the radio pregame. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, difference. What you say about somebody that you're like, what's this guy's deal? You're just like, yeah, he's a little different. He's a little different.
Yeah.
And listen, we had the conversation bringing him back. Was it the right move? Was it the wrong move? It's probably helped them in spots, but at the same time, they have to deal with the situation now that's going to be on, off. It feels like. Now, maybe that changes, but I just never thought that was a good situation for a team to have. And since he's been back, they've just lost and lost and lost. They've had a lot of road games. They've lost those 2. Durant getting hurt certainly kills, but we talk about Durant shooting more. Is this just going to be his team to carry on his back, taking 30 shots? Like, that was not the game he was supposed to play either. And at some point, you wonder if he's going to look at this situation, too, and be like, what am I doing here? Like, is this like the Thunder again, where I'm carrying them and no one else here is helping me? Harden, Dodgetown.
It's not
he
because
was obviously frustrated with that. Because
Irving's
Durant
always gonna
doesn't
be
want to.
Irving. Yeah,
Durant doesn't
now
want to take every shot in a game.
I know, but now you're discounting Kyrie Irving, who is, from a strictly talent perspective, a top 10 NBA player. Kyrie's game is effortless, and when he's out there, you can't pretend he's not also another superstar with you. So again, 2 superstars plus we think Simmons plus other players like Curry, and you get some decent efforts out of their bigs, coming in there.
Blake Griffin.
Strength. There, I don't think Durant's going to feel like he's on an island there. I think if Kyrie is forced to sit all games, or they play in a decisive game, or 1 or 2 decisive play-in games, and Kyrie's not available for those, and they lose, he's going to be pretty pissed, for sure. But, again, see how that situation plays out. 50% Kyrie is bad, for these guys. It's going to be impossible to get out of that play-in situation. Then who knows after that?
So, how are you feeling about the Celtics at this point, John? I feel like where are they going to go in your mind?
Nothing changes, but every
Hold on
game,
over there.
as Jimmy said, nothing changes in the sense of I take that back. Some things change because you see Tatum's evolution and you see other things fitting the way that they're fitting and them kind of playing more on a string. And you've seen the defensive efforts back to back. You've seen them overcoming slow first halves and bad shooting performances. Twice in this last week in the first half and come out and totally be a different team and putting the clamps on someone in the second half. You see them go toe to toe with Brooklyn here. You feel better and better about their chances, meaning in a 7-game series with anyone, without having to say all of this stuff has to go right. But their margins are thin. They can't sustain any sort of injuries. We know that. I'm deeply concerned about the bench right now because the Derrick White honeymoon is definitely over, and we got to talk about it a little bit. before we move on. But Bobby, it's less about whether or not I'm supremely confident in the Celtics. I think they have as good a chance as almost anybody in the East right now. I'd favor one or two teams ahead of them. The problem is there's so many good teams. It's just a bloodbath. I don't think you can be a fan of any Eastern Conference team right now and be certain they can even make it out of a first round matchup, which is crazy, right? Like, especially if Brooklyn's coming in as like a 7 seed. Like, I don't care where you are right now. Which team are you like, we'll kill those guys? You know, like Toronto and Brooklyn could be the 7 and the 8 seeds. You feel great about those matchups if you're the 1 and the 2? Certainly not, which means everybody else in the 3 through 6 range where the Celtics are going to fall, anybody could beat anybody there. So the reason I don't feel confident is simply because I don't think any team can feel confident right now, but you definitely feel as good about the Celtics as you would about any team right now, right?
100%.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously the Cleveland Cavaliers sort of in that team that everyone's expecting to drop.
Yes, that's who you want to kind of see there.
Right, that's what you want to see because of obviously the lack of experience. Obviously because Darius Garland isn't 100%, so you have to capitalize on that. But then neither is Jaylen Brown. With that being said, though, I still like the Celtics' chance in that sort of matchup. But outside of that, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of the Celtics are definitely going to beat this team in the best of 7 series, but they have a chance. I mean, even the top tier teams. Again, my big 3 is just the Heat, Sixers, and Bucks. I think those are your 3 toughest. But outside of those teams, I like the Celtics' chances in the best of 7 matchup. I just don't think you would want to see the Nets the first round. I mean, but again, like you said, John, you won't. Again, you won't unless you get one of those top 2
unless
teams.
You keep winning.
You stay at.
If you're the Celtics,
I don't know, man. If you're the Celtics, I don't know if you want to get one of those top 2 seeds because you might end up facing.
You're gonna have a tough team no matter what, and it's looking less and less likely like that Cleveland thing's in play. They're really starting to slip here.
They're gonna sag.
It's like Chicago, Philly, Milwaukee, Miami, even Brooklyn. Like those teams are all kind of in the same conversation, and that's probably who you're gonna see here, barring something wacky happen with the Cavs getting back on their feet here again. And even they're tough. Like we understate them. They have huge bodies that they can throw at Tatum in the lane there. That would not be an easy series.
I think you could get to 3 and end up with Cleveland. You know, right now I think a 4-5 with Chicago.
And if you got to like a Toronto series, you'd feel pretty good about that.
You feel good about that, yeah. I certainly.
So that's why you want to rise, even with the risk of Brooklyn. You want to get way up there.
If you want to rank the teams, obviously you're looking at potential playoff teams right now. You know. Yeah, sure. If you rise, that's great. If you end up with Toronto, but if you rise and you end up with Brooklyn, that's not so great, because that's a very losable first round. Would you like to run into Cleveland? Sure. If you could pick and choose your spot between those other kind of top 4 teams right now, maybe you'd like to position Chicago. You just don't know where everyone else is going to fall. So you play wherever it falls. It's going to be a really matchup dependent. Bobby, I know you're not afraid of Miami. You think the Celtics have their number. We haven't really seen them full yet, so I don't know. Chicago really has been battling injuries too. The one thing with them is they can really play defense when they're healthy, so I don't think that's as easy as people make it out to be too. Everyone's like, oh, they'll handle Chicago easy.
DeRozan can do to you. Yeah, that's the matchup right now.
And Caruso, Ball, and those guys can play defense, man. And so that's not an easy out.
Derrick Jones, he was an underrated addition for them, dunking on Giannis and giving Grayson Allen that little elbow to the head that he didn't say was intentional, but that's a guy, with the Heat that could do some things off the bench there. They're super deep. Javonte Green has obviously reached a new level this year, formerly of the Celtics. They're scary, and Vucevic can go off on any given night against you too. So
you forget about him. That's a problem.
He's always a problem for Boston too. Always. Yeah.
That one's scary for sure. That would be like 2009 Celtics Bulls, go back and forth between those two groups there. So
right.
They're like at the top for sure. Giannis, just because of his relentless motor, I think would have to be like a number 2 that you want to avoid there. And then you go down the list. So there's definitely a big 3. It's good that the likelihood of seeing any of those teams, though, first round goes down if you get up there with them, right?
Best case scenario, you're probably missing the big 3 teams. And the Nets most likely. So those are the ones you don't want, and then you give yourself a solid puncher's chance, if not a slight favorite against some other teams. Jimmy, you've been quiet for a bit. Where's your head at right now?
I'm looking at the standings as we speak, just to see like types of situations that they could find themselves in. I mean, you've got the Hawks and the
All
Hornets.
These teams, like
the Hawks and the Hornets can they can score with the best of them in the NBA too. So. Again, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different combinations that could end up being your first round opponent. But to to basically what you guys said, like there's not a lot of teams that you want to see. I know we said Cavs, and I even think the Cavs would give you, they play hard. I mean, Cleveland's not an easy place to go in and win, as weird as it sounds either. But yeah, that's probably the team. I try not to waste too much energy on potential matchups when there's so much can change. I mean, it's crazy that,
that's not me. It's probably
Miami's in first, and the 4th seed is 3.5 games back. Anything can change. So you play the schedule as it comes, right? So, I mean, I again, what we've said is they can compete with any one of these teams they can compete with. A 7-game series. Now, listen, I've said this a few times. The offense is still a bit of a concern for me on the Celtics side of things for a 7-game series against a supremely talented team, just because it's hard to play. Let's be honest, Jason Tatum's not going to drop 50 points in seven straight games. Like, they've got to find other avenues of ways to score. They can't rely strictly on defense and expect that one guy is going to carry them on the offensive end. So over a 7-game series, that does concern me. I would like to see them shore up some things depth-wise. We might as well just talk about it now. Like, Derrick White needs to do much more coming off the bench. They've lost production right now. They've lost bench production, with Richardson gone. I know people had their qualms with Schroeder, but he could spark you offensively when he needed to. And right now,
you keep going back to him.
No, it's just an example of they need offense from somebody.
I mean, right now, would you rather Schroeder or Tice?
Schroeder or Tice?
Probably Tice.
That's crazy. Tice is
Schroeder
terrible.
was not playing. You're trying to find a style.
I'm not trying to go. I'm not going down.
I can't do Schroeder. I can't do Schroeder.
My point is this, Bobby. My point is this, and I would think that you would agree. Somebody needs to score coming off the bench. Somebody needs to be that scorer. Grant Williams has done a commendable job with that 3-point shot. Again, I don't think of him as a guy that's going to give you 15 points off the bench every night. If he gives it to you here and there, great. But who's going to be the 15 to 20 points off the bench guy? Who's it going to be?
I don't know if you have it. I mean, White did it a couple of times earlier this week. He was great.
He's the only one that can do it, really.
Right.
He's the only one that you. Yeah.
And you're staggering. Like,
you made the trade thinking that he would be that guy. Is my point.
Yeah, and Tatum and Brown are going to play a ton of minutes, and they're going to carry you from a scoring perspective. Smart, like, you're a thin team, and that's the way they've been running all year, and they found success doing that. Pritchard's an interesting one too, because he only gave you really one big 3 in this one, but that feels like all you need out of like your 8th, 9th guy there, whatever you want to call him, is just like a bucket or 2 efficient play and 10 to 12 good minutes there, because your top 7, 8 guys, they're giving you essentially what you need here, and they've been a top 3 to 5 offense since this deadline when they've added White and gotten Tice into the mix. And Tice, he could have had a lot more points in this one if he hit his free throws. So you're scrapping there for sure, but it's a matter of the style and the plan that you're going for there. And that's why Schroeder, you'd put up the big numbers from the points perspective, but you weren't really playing the style of basketball that you wanted to, or running the schemes you wanted to, or even the plays sometimes when he was out there. There were a lot of situations where he would just run his own play. And, they're doing a little bit of that themselves too. Like, I think there's an on-the-fly. Smart talked about this. They want to be unpredictable.
That drove me crazy.
They're not that unpredictable.
Yeah. So Derrick White, again, had that stretch against Atlanta, which was needed because he'd been in the
great
tank
game. We're not saying he hasn't performed at all, but I'm just saying again, it's consistent bench.
And then so what you were looking for, what we said about him that was great was the consistency. But it's not just performance; it's also trust. Ime is playing him fewer minutes overall in the last however many games than he was when he first got here, and he's doing that down another body now too. So. That's a little concerning. The fact that there are sometimes when there are lineups out there and the offense looks completely out of sync, and I look around and Derrick White's part of some of those lineups. A lot of the time, the fact that here today in that third quarter when White was in there and he had subbed in, I think for Tatum, and the offense went to crap, and Ime panicked and put Tatum back in. He sat him at about the 4-something mark, and Tatum came back in with 2:30 to go in the third. He was supposed to sit the rest of that quarter and come back in the fourth, and he couldn't do that because things just looked out of sorts. So it's really the offense that you need consistency from, and you need. So I don't know. You guys were there. I saw he was dragging that left.
He was shaking it off at one point.
A couple times he shook it off at one point. I don't know what he did there. to tweak it because it looked so benign in the replay there. I don't know if he's, and a couple times I saw just kind of hanging by his side too. I don't know if he was off, and if so, fine, it's a pass. But this isn't the first kind of. It's the non-impact. It's the not much of an offensive impact in the game here, where you want to see some of the things you've seen from him, which is getting downhill, being a little bit aggressive, and just he was pretty invisible on offense tonight.
Yeah, it was a rough one. It was a clunker. He's had a few here or there. I had some concern going into that Atlanta game when he started piling them up at that point. But he talked at shoot-around that day specifically about getting involved with the terminology and the playbook and all these different things that have been an adjustment here, certainly. I thought he was really good on Tuesday. Thursday, it was another shaky offensive one from a scoring perspective, but his defense was great, I thought. Just switchable as anybody here. 1-3, sometimes 1-4. He's guarded Jokic, too.
Right.
In that first game. So his defense is really where you got to hone in on his impact, because it looks like that's going to be where he really kills it for this group. But you do want more offensively from him, I'd say, given what you gave up to integrate him here. But it is about the fit. It is about how he allows them to play stylistically. There's just only so many guys you can check off as saying they're going to do a lot of things here but not score. That just puts more on Tatum and Brown and Smart. Because, Horford, Rob, it's the same deal. They do all the little things. You're not expecting upwards of 20 points from either of them, and all the other guys on the bench too, of course.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to. Some people maybe are newish to the show and wondering what some of that noise is in the background. It's something we can't control, guys. Okay, we are Bobby.
And Josue.
And Josue are there covering the game for CLNS Media. A couple of people are asking, who are these guys too? For CLNS Media, we cover every game. We have multiple reporters there at games. Sherrod's there as well, doing some other stuff right now for Bleacher Report. But it's sometimes noisy. We can't control it because they change over the court. And
this is live on the scene, folks. If you want
from
live
basketball to hockey, it's noisy. You can't escape it. It doesn't matter where you are in the garden. Josue, I muted you because of this reason. It gets loud. So we joke that there's robots fighting in the background, but really it's the Bull Gang just taking the big planks and big panels and just slamming them down. And
I just
that's
love when
it.
Jimmy was going on and on and on. I muted my mic and the beep was going on, and I'm like, yo, mute Bobby's mic. He just wouldn't mute it, but
right. So we can't control it, guys, but they're there.
It's unique to our show. Okay, where can you get that beeping anywhere else on a post game show? Right?
Plus, it's Sunday. It's
kind of like white noise.
I'm sure, like all of us, they're trying to go home too. So
the Bruins are coming home.
Put that quarter away as soon as possible.
Yeah, they're trying to do they're doing their job. We're doing ours.
We got hockey coming up again.
The Bruins just
they were out west for a while.
Last night's game was unreal. It was a great game.
That was awesome. They're coming back, so they're there. The Celtics don't play home again until Friday. Is that right?
Yeah, Pistons.
Friday Pistons, their nemesis. So, so again, that's why the noise. We apologize for it, but again, we're there. These guys are.
Then
at
it's
the game.
KG night.
They're
KG afternoon.
Oh,
KG.
Sunday's gonna be
Sunday. Next Sunday.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's another big test against Luka.
I'm trying to convince John to do a pregame show for Sunday. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen, but it's a big one. Just a KG focused pregame show.
We'll get KG.
We'll get KG on maybe. No problem. We'll give it a shot anyways.
Yeah.
We'll get Glenn Davis. We'll get Big Baby on. We'll get Big Baby on.
Baby.
We'll make sure he has his seat.
That's a top 3 moment of the year. Oh my god.
That was so funny. Oh my god. You read it and it was funny, then you see the video.
Yeah, but ESPN saw that coming. Like there was a producer out in the truck being like, all right, now live. They planned that thing out perfectly.
And everyone's done that in their life. Everyone's gone. Oh, this is your seat, front row.
Like somebody told the producer, security's on its way. Cue him up now. All right, got the camera guy there, and they could. Not only did you see it, but you heard him. Oh, these are your seats. Like, oh man.
Did Glenn buy his tickets on StubHub or something?
Apparently, when he got relocated, it was just in the second row because when he was chirping at KD, he was still courtside, but he just bumped up a row because he was
Glenn Davis knew what he was doing. He wanted to get a couple minutes chirping on the court, and then he'll just go back to his seat and be Glenn Davis.
Oh my.
It's funny though, but it's like,
but the person whose seats they were probably like, I'm not approaching that dude. Let me go get.
They had an
security."
usher toss him. That was the worst part of it. And then his look on his face is like, here, these? Oh,
ESPN rolling.
For
right
anyone who's
there.
ever been busted, the fake look at your ticket thing is the
Oh.
funniest thing in the world. I'm like,
look at
look
this,
this
the row.
totally isn't my seat.
The balcony? Where's that?
This is section
300s?
319.
Where are the 300s?
Oh.
No. The best is you got to blame your friend, bro. I told you it's. Sorry about that, guys. You know, I told you we're over there. 308.
Classic. Glenn Davis. It's like, yeah, dude, you won a championship, but let's go. You're still Glenn Davis.
Give him exactly. Give him a courtside seat for life. Okay. Oh my God.
It'll be. It's so gonna be so interesting. Who's there a week from today? Is like that whole team gonna be there? Obviously, the Allen question. It's gonna be interesting.
Big Baby's gonna milk this. Big Baby's gonna be everywhere.
So wait, Big Baby's in Boston all week. It sounds like
all week for TG,
probably.
He's just making the rounds. Like, there's no way you don't bump into Big Baby this week if you live in Boston. Like, you're just bump into him somewhere. It's not a big city. He's got nothing else to do.
Perk will be on the ground before long.
Yeah, what's going on with Baby's fraud case? Did that ever get tried?
I was just gonna say, I'm just glad to see Glenn Davis is like out in the world, like smiling, and not like behind bars or like in trouble somewhere. Yeah, like I don't know. I stopped following up on this guy.
He defrauded the league's healthcare plan.
I don't even know. How is he allowed to even go to an NBA game?
Jimmy's like, I'm just glad the dude made bail. Like, he's out.
Maybe that's why he had to buy a ticket, secondary market.
Here's a question: how does he even? If you got caught like stealing from your employer, would you show up to work and be like, "Hey guys, like, sorry about that. I'm just gonna hang out over here." Like, why would they let you in?
Yeah.
He was stealing someone's seat.
Well, if anything, it was the NBA's health. It wasn't technically from.
Are you calling me dishonest?
Mike Zares knew it up to him.
For the record, I'm not saying don't let Glenn Davis in the building. I think it's great that he is. I just think it's a hilarious situation that he's in. But
no, I see
Glenn Davis. It's Glenn Davis.
I don't know. They might have thrown the thing out. I didn't follow it.
I don't know.
But to Jimmy's point, though, it's essentially the NBA saying, like, no, you stole from us. Get the heck out of here. You're not watching our game.
No, you can't be here. Like, you literally stole from us.
You know what, though? He was wearing.
You're on the list, man.
You literally stole from us.
First of all, he is on our side. He was wearing a Respect the Logo shirt. He's one of the few guys who came out against Kyrie when he did that. He was very vocal. Yeah.
Thank you so much for reminding me about that.
This was like upset too, but
this was like the lowest moment I felt like being a Celtics fan in a while, when like Kyrie was basically trashing the organization in the city. Nobody on the team said a damn thing about it, and it was just guys who used to be on the team that were like, "Hey, man, that's not right. Like, that's wrong. Like, you're wrong about the city. You're wrong about the team."
Max was pissed. Was pissed.
So shout out Glenn Davis for that, man. At least he's, he had a little bit of a spine or a backbone that a lot of these younger guys didn't have last year. Maybe that's different this year. Maybe they don't let people trash their team like that anymore. But hey.
They're breaking out the screw guns. We gotta go.
Glenn Davis has a seat at the guard whenever he wants.
Almost by midcourt by now, man. Once you hit those guns out. Yeah,
I can hear it. All right, final.
We used to do the show on the court, and we'd specifically start on the far end of the court, and it would be like a race against time to get the show finished. While they're in back of us, ripping the court up, and we're like turning around, making sure that we had, like, they weren't like ripping up the floor.
They're standing on the last square of parquet. And I'm not in front of the camera. I'm watching them come, and I'm like,
and Jimmy's like, and hopefully the Celtics can keep this thing going. That's gonna do it for us. And like, he starts speeding up his words like crazy.
Apologize after. They're like, but no, it's all good. Those guys are great.
That is good. So to recap. This felt like an arrival sort of moment, both in terms of the team and then from Tatum, and just kind of the culmination of like these improvements and this kind of upswing you've seen in his game over the last month or so. And so we started the show, just Jimmy and I, just saying like, it felt like today Tatum arrived, even though he's been coming for a while. And that after this week, I think you really got to feel like the Celtics have kind of at least cemented their place among I know they were a trendy pick and a fancy pick, and those ones come and go at times. I just don't think you can discount them anymore. I think they have to be legitimately in the conversation for the rest of the way, barring anything unforeseen at this point.
Right, and I think that's going to be the conversation for a lot of the NBA talking heads, national talking heads, because they're going to say, look, this team is here. You know, they're surging. Jason Tatum is on a tear right now. This is reminiscent of what he was doing right before the shutdown, right before the league shutdown back in 2019, 2020. And I'm seeing a bit of that and then some because of what he's doing to overall help his team. And yeah, I'm talking about start speeding up my words right now. But you know, like that's the difference. You know, it's not just the local.
Just standing in front of him, being like, "Wrap it up, buddy."
It's not just local guys like us saying this. I think that's the same thing being said across the league. And for sure, I mean, this is it. This is the statement win, the statement game performance that he needed to do. And I think everyone's clearly bought into this. Obviously, the entire team is on the same page right now.
Yeah, I'm buying in too. I think they're gonna win it all. I really do. Like it just has that feel to it.
Damn it, Bobby! Come on, Bobby.
Why is everyone laughing?
I know,
you
you
see
guys-
the way they're playing.
Yeah.
No, and you know the Suns. There's a lot of great teams out there, but the Gauntlet's the East, and they're putting themselves in a really good position now in the East. They're checking off a lot of boxes of concerns we had. And at some point, you start to wonder what's left for this team to prove. And there'll be other great teams. I'm sure they'll lose some tough games, but they have been the best team in the NBA by a pretty wide margin for well over a third of the season.
They have.
That's
But-
where I'm at.
All right.
But that also
All right.
means
The night
if they
that we
do-
don't laugh at that's going to mean they've really turned the
We're not. It's like I
Well,
said.
no.
not
Let me just
at
finish
Boston.
saying
It's the
this.
certainty with which he says it. Not that
Right,
it's
right.
not that
Yeah.
it's an absurd take.
Right.
It's not an absurd take. It's just you
mad
say it.
conviction.
You
Yeah.
say it as clearly as like this is blue. The Celtics are going to win the title. It's like with absolute. There's it can't be argued. Yeah.
I've been watching them play possession for possession the whole way, and they have done a lot.
We have not been watching, so thank you for, for
Yeah.
keeping tabs. Yeah.
So
Um,
now, one more thing on that, though. That also means the expectations there. So if they disappoint and fall below that, there'll have to be some answers. Now, injuries barring too.
Bobby,
They're not a
it's
deep
still
team.
math again. I bring this up only because it's like this is how hard it is. The 538 article that we talked about, the 538 model based off of how they deem just algorithmic, just putting all the numbers in a blender and spitting it out, that gave the Celtics the highest percentage among Eastern Conference teams to reach the NBA Finals, put that chance at 11%. The most likely outcome for the Celtics among all possible outcomes is still a first-round exit at 37%. I realize this is just a machine spitting out numbers, but it actually is factually accurate. The most likely thing to happen is still a first-round exit, given every possibility that they finish below the top four and they go in as an underdog in that first series. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just really, really, really hard in the Eastern Conference to advance. Real quick, guys, mute yourselves. I have the Kyrie sound. I want to play it real quick just so we can hear it, so you guys can see it. Here, give me 1 second here. Let me put this up here. Here's Kyrie Irving talking about why we suck. Right? Is that what he said? Basically. Well, let me find it here.
Yes, why we were scorned lovers.
We're scorned. Here we are. Here's Kyrie.
No, I think it's going to be like that. Well, I know it's going to be like that for the rest of my career coming in here. So, it's like the scoring girlfriend, just wants an explanation on why I left, but still hoping for, a text back. And I'm just like, yeah, it's fun while it lasted, and I think that's the relationship that makes it fun. But, the reality is that I'm just grateful for my time here in Boston. Everybody in the front office, everybody in that locker room treated me well. Still have lasting relationships in our league, that extend as a brotherhood for us. And, we still remain close. So to see the growth of a lot of guys that I play with on this team and seeing this core group back together, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, JB, JT, and then I add Derrick White, a few other guys, Rob Williams maturing. I was with these guys when they were pups. When JT just got drafted, JB was in his second year.
Break.
So, I just have mutual respect for them, and coming back in this environment, we know what it is, and I just got to lock in on the mission, stay focused, and not try to have too many conversations with the fans on the side when they call me out of my name. So.
Honestly, I'm more offended by the second part.
The young guys.
Jimmy, you're still mute. You might be muted, Jimmy. I lost you.
Oh, my bad. I said I don't know
Yeah.
what that last part meant, but I had no problem with that entire quote for the most part. I thought it was fair.
Look, it's fine. The first, Kyrie and a lot of people do this is the king, but Kyrie is the king of the start with the insult, but then loop it into something that kind of absolves you of having said the thing that you said at the beginning. Even though he did sandwich it, he came back to it. So I applaud him for the attempted relationship analogy, but that's difficult stuff. So try to leave that to the pros. Number two, I don't give me this I'm your daddy sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was with them when they were pups.
And I appreciate it. Leave that. You were not helpful. Okay.
Right.
You did not do anything to help them.
You literally left them.
You left them and you crushed their spirits and you continually reminded them, even though he might have been right about some of it. And even Tatum recently admitted it, but you don't get to preside. You don't get to preside over their progress. I'm sorry. You don't get that feather in your cap as the guy who was there at the beginning as they were growing, and you don't get to feel pride. I'm sorry. I take more offense to that than the first part.
Yeah, and you have to eat those boos, man. You gotta eat those boos every time because they're not going to go away. Which it sounds like he acknowledges. I always say this too. Like keep it respectful. Like if you're at the game, don't be a jerk. But you could still like be a fun fan and like try to get in these guys' heads a little bit without being disrespectful. So I think that's 99% of fans. There's always going to be one bad apple, and I don't care what city you're in. But I think for the most part, fans know where the line is.
Yeah.
And they should boo. Like we've been over that. It's just what happens when you do what he did, and it's an action reaction with him that he doesn't really seem to understand, or just fails to. Like he could have stayed and he would have been loved, but he left and now he's hated. So that's just kind of how it goes. And he's not the only one that has to go through it. That connects right to the Vax thing that I've talked about all year with him. Like he's not the only guy who had to go through that. Everybody on the Nets did. Everybody on the Knicks did. Everybody on the Warriors did. And this has just kind of become his thing. So
it is what it is. If they go down this year, he owns it. Whether you think he has a right or whether he does, fine. That's a choice, but it's a choice that he made that could sink the team. But with this stuff here, that's fine. I don't have a huge problem with any of it. But I don't love that whole, I don't love that whole, these are my boys sort of thing. These
guys are spreading their wings.
You kind of had an adversarial relationship, with some people here, and you can just own that. It didn't work. You were a star. They weren't stars yet. They wanted to be stars. The mix didn't work. That's that. It's done.
Yeah.
We lacked chemistry. Okay, that's a fair thing to say. Relationships end because of that. We don't have to pick bad guys and good guys here, but it didn't work. So
timing is everything, right? In some relationships, time just didn't work out.
They weren't ready.
Too bad. The Hayward thing. Who knows how that would have changed everything if he didn't break his leg.
Who knows? Though I don't think those guys were ever going to be down with Hayward. Listening to Tatum again from that podcast, it just wasn't
bad.
going to be.
That's what I said.
It's a great player. I don't get it, but whatever.
I don't get it either, but it's not flashy. It's not whatever. You can look at that guy and be like, I could take him, and that's what those guys were thinking back then. They didn't understand his full value because he does do a lot of things beyond just like highlight worthy sort of plays and just light it up. And, he's been the same guy. To his credit, when he's healthy, he's the same dude year in, year out. You look at his numbers, remarkably inconsistent when
he's helped
remarkably consistent. Yeah.
He's helped the Hornets a lot, and they've missed him badly when he's gone. Yeah. But, injured again, year in, year out. So
record with him off the court has been terrible for Charlotte. So he's good. But anyway, we've talked enough about almost everything. So we'll wrap it. We got a long layoff here. We'll pop up and do some content if the opportunity arises during the week. If there's anything going on, maybe we'll do some spaces. Definitely jump onto Discord if you haven't already. Once again, I'll let you guys know. CLNSmedia.com/Discord. Make sure to check that out. Definitely check us out and subscribe. Once again, hammer those that like button and the subscribe button here if you're still watching and hanging out. Pop over to Celtics All Access YouTube if you haven't subscribed there and you're on the main channel. All of our post-game content will be there. Josue and Bobby are going to do a little thing right now. Talking about the game and breaking it down. So make sure you check out their post-game recaps and all of our terrific podcast on the CLNS Media Network. So, guys, we'll wrap it up. Thanks everybody for hanging.